Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this month's edition of our Foundation Matters webinar. I'm Al DeLucia, Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 33, and tonight I will be your host. Sandra Hempstead, who is usually the host for these webinars, will be one of our featured speakers tonight. My fellow Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 33, Stephen Beer, will be moderating the question and answer session for this evening. Tonight's webinar is all about Rotary Foundation reports. We will discuss which reports deliver the most useful information and how clubs can use these to build engagement, strengthen giving, and increase our impact. So let me introduce our speakers for this evening. First, we have Sandra Hempstead, Chair of the Foundation Regional Action Plan. Sandra will help us examine 3 foundation reports and ask 3 important questions about what that information is really telling us. Joining us as well is Deneth Cartwright, past president and current membership chair for the Rotary Club of NASA Sunrise. Deneth understands that reports only matter if they inspire action. Tonight, she'll share practical strategies that any club can use and implement to build engagement, excitement, and impact for the second half of the Rotary year. We are also joined by Vince Massimini from the Rotary Club of Kent Island, Maryland. Vince has turned Rotary Foundation information into club-wide buy-in. He will share how his club uses reports not just to measure progress, but to create alignment and renewed purpose as they move into the second half of the Rotary year. And tonight, it is truly a privilege for us to welcome previous Rotary International President and current trustee of the Rotary Foundation, Stephanie Urchick. We are extremely grateful that Stephanie is here with us tonight. She'll be sharing her experience, her perspective, and her passion for the Rotary Foundation. Her leadership at the highest levels of Rotary gives her a unique vantage point on where we are, where we are going, and what is possible for the second half of the Rotary year and beyond. And with that, I will turn it over to Sandra Hempstead.
Thank you very much, Al, and thanks everyone for being here this evening. Before I start, I want to do a quick check. Who here would describe themselves as a data nerd? So, if you didn't enthusiastically describe yourself as a data nerd, relax, you're in the right place. This segment was designed especially for you. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to use 3 foundation reports to lead well, without spreadsheets, without formulas, and without headaches. Next slide, please. Next one. Okay, so every club leader should be able to answer just 3 questions about their club. How are we giving? Who is participating? And who should we be thanking? Each of these questions is answered by one report. You don't need to be a data nerd, though it is helpful to know one and to know when to call upon one for some additional information. Next slide, please. So about this time, somebody out there is saying, gee, they're going to start bringing in all the spreadsheets. Well, the numbers are not coming in spreadsheets. Don't worry, we're keeping this human. The data nerds did all the heavy lifting so we can focus on people. Next slide. The first report we're going to look at is the fundraising analysis report. This report tells us how giving is happening, and it also tells us how much. The key thing to look at is one-time donors versus repeat donors. Next slide. This report is very recognizable because it has a graph, a big graph right in the middle. And this tells us whether there is a giving spike. And in this case, there's a very large giving spike. And that tells us that there's a small number of generous donors that gave in a particular year. And you can see the donations went down the following year. So if giving goes up, but the number of donors doesn't, that's fragile growth. Now we can also tell in the bottom right-hand corner the Paul Harris Society eligible members. And we can see that went from 12 down to 1 this year. So the leadership move here with this report isn't math. It's more about relationships. It's about what we can do collectively with the funds we raise. So the action step here is to reconnect with your donors. Make sure your club is aware of what they're funding, what activities and impact your club is making, and then reconnect with the one-time donors, thank them first, and then invite a second donation. Next slide. So the second report we're going to look at is the banner report. This is also not a money report, this is a people report. This shows how many members see themselves as part of the foundation story. Next slide. In this particular report, the very top section gives us some statistics, and we can see from this example that 87% of the members are giving something to the Rotary Foundation. 81% are giving every Rotarian every year that $100 a year. Strong clubs don't start by asking for bigger gifts. They start by inviting more members to participate. And this club has done just that. So the action step that you would take with regard to this report is to encourage every member to give something at any level, whatever level is meaningful to them. And yes, even the small gifts count. My first gift to the Rotary Foundation was $25. I didn't think very much of it. I thought I wasn't giving enough. And then I recently read that if you look at the $25 donors across the entire world, they give about $5 to $6 million each year. Think of what Rotary can do, the impact we can make with $5 or $6 million. Those small gifts make a difference. So every gift is important. Next slide, please. And the third report that we're going to talk about is the recognition summary. This is my favorite report. It's basically a gratitude list. It shows us who just said yes for the first time to give and who's quietly stepping up. Next slide. So in this particular club, we can see in the top right-hand corner the all-time giving for the club since its charter. This club is a fairly young club, but it has already given $188,000. Thank your donors for that significant, consistent giving across the years. But if I was the president-elect of this club, I might see if I could challenge my club to get to $200,000 and perhaps celebrate that at the charter night. Now, if we're going to give that type of a goal, we need to make sure that we're communicating the impact that we can make through that additional giving. Many of the members of this club are Paul Harris Fellows. In fact, it's 28 Paul Harris Fellows out of 33 donors, so it's a very significant number. We can also see the last contribution date, and we can see that there are some recent gifts. This is a report that will help you to recognize your donors. And recognition isn't only about pins. It's about helping people to feel seen and valued and appreciated. So the action step here is to make a personal thank you this month. Make a thank you to that first-time donor or that donor who is stepping up quietly. And it's not an email. It's a real phone call, or it's a conversation with them at your club meeting. Look them in the eye and make sure they feel thanked and appreciated, and they understand that their donation is helping your club to make an increased impact. Next slide. So these are some real life examples. No data nerd badge is required. If the giving goes up, but the donors don't, that growth isn't going to last. If participation is stuck at a low percentage, that's an engagement issue. It's not a money issue. Make sure your club is understanding and educated about what the giving does. What do we do with the funds that we donate to the Rotary Foundation? First-time gifts, that's your cue to say thank you right away. Every report points you to one simple next step. Next slide. So here's your takeaway. If you can do this monthly, that's great, but at least once a quarter, run the 3 reports, spot one trend, take one action. No lengthy committee meetings, no spreadsheets, no need to become a data nerd, unless you secretly want to, in which case I won't tell anyone. Just ask better questions, be consistent. 3 reports, 3 questions, and you will get real results. Thank you. And now it is time for us to hear from Doneth. Take it away. The virtual floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, everyone, and good night, good morning for some persons. I saw earlier in the chat where someone said they could not hear. I'm hoping that that has cleared up now because we're in for a treat. Now, across Rotary, we have been discussing increasing foundation giving. And this evening, I'd like to share 5 strategies for increasing your growth in the foundation giving organically. Next slide, please. Now, so I'll be sharing 5 steps, 5 strategic steps that you can take to increase your Rotary giving for the second half of the year. The first step is to review your current giving because you have to measure what you expect. And so a great place to start is, of course, on the Rotary.org website and pull down the report on your club recognition of your members. So the first thing is to identify each member's contribution thus far. Determine their current PHF level. So if it's 1 or 2 and you want to take them to the next level, then you create a simple spreadsheet to show them where they are and how much they need to top up to get to where they really want to get to. And members get a kick out of increasing their giving each year. So know exactly where each of your members stand at any given point during the Rotary year. Next slide, please. And then the second step is to calculate the gap. So we all know that the PHF level is $1,000 and we increase that in increments of $1,000. But let's say a member has $2,350 in Rotary giving, and this is maybe contributions annually from their dues. And there's a small gap that will take them either to PHF or to PHF plus 1. Then you simply calculate the gap. In this case, the member has a current giving of $2,350 and only needs $650 to take them to the next level. So that's very important. And step 3, next slide, please. Step 3, you're going to use points to match your members' contribution. And how do you do that? You go to that same report on Rotary.org, Club Recognition Summary, verify the points that your club has. So if you look at the chart that's to the right of the screen, you'll see that this particular club has points, 20,262 points. So that's a lot of matching points that you can give. But don't just jump to doing that. You have to obtain your board's approval first. And then you can match, once it's approved, match $1 per point. So you donate a point per dollar of contribution. And so, for example, if the member donates $325, the club matches it with $325. That person would move to Paul Harris Fellow plus 1 or 2, depending on where that contribution takes them. Next slide, please. Now, when you're requesting these donations, do not send out a mass email to everybody. We've tested that. That doesn't work. A one-on-one discussion with the member is the best strategy. Show them how close they are and share some of the impactful stories around the world. And then offer the matching opportunity. Keep in mind that people give to people and they give to causes. they give not just to have that award for themselves, but to donate to a cause or to donate people that are in need. So tell some stories, and there are lots of them on Rotary.org of giving in various countries, and of course, covering all the areas of focus for Rotary. Next slide, please. Once you've done that, celebrate your member generosity. So get their consent, recognize them at club meetings, feature them on social media. And what we've done here in the Bahamas, we celebrate them at a foundation event. So recognition fosters a culture of giving. People like to be recognized. In the picture that you're seeing, that's a particular club posing at a Rotary Foundation event. It doesn't have to be a formal event, but have some form of celebration. Next slide, please. Now, when you implement this strategy, you'll have more PHFs, and you realize that the next big donation is not in new gifts, but it's right there in your club. Gaps sitting in your club, ready to be cultivated. Increase member engagement, so members feel a part of the foundation. You have a stronger giving culture in your club, sustainable annual growth, and this is scalable across any club. This is something that you can implement 5 minutes after this call. Next slide, please. And that's it. So we look forward to seeing a massive increase in your giving for this second half of the Rotary year. And so with that said, I will now turn you over to Vince.
Hi, I'm Vince Mazzamini. I'm at the Rotary Club of Kent Island in just east of Annapolis on the Chesapeake Bay. Next slide, please. And I just want to talk to you about a program. Ours is not quite as grand as we may have discussed a little bit, but it should be interesting for you. We're a relatively small club, and like I said, just across the bay from Annapolis, Maryland, so about 50 miles east of Washington, D.C. And we have a good history of giving, but our percentage of members, as was discussed by Sandra and Daneth, we had several members that had not given any donations recently. So we started going. Next slide, please. And what we decided was to try and become a 100% foundation giving club. I hear a lot about every Rotarian every year. I'll talk about that in a little bit. 100% foundation giving club is similar. And the idea is we want an average of $100 per capita for the club. And every member were greater than $25. The thing that's nice about this is you have flexibility as to which funds the members can give to. The annual fund is there, Polio Plus, endowment, or certain approved global grants. And we started this in the fall for all of our members. Now, I am a data nerd, and I did send out an email to start this along with discussions at board meetings and member meetings, but just to make sure we got to everybody, because not everybody comes to all the meetings. Anyway, and we're dealing with a lot of people. So I'll work on phone calls later, but right now this is an email to start this. Next slide, please. And what we did was I checked again on January 1st, and we've had pretty good success. We had over 50% of our members have made a donation this year, and we've already gone over the $100 per capita giving requirement. And I just sent another email to members who have not yet donated. I haven't started calling people yet, but that's next on the list. Next slide. Couple of things that I think are important. I really prepared detailed instructions on how to give things. I don't know about y'all, but a lot of our members are elderly, and let's just say computer literacy is not high on the list. And so I've worked a lot with folks on how to do this, but also stressed a paper form works. You can download it, print it, and mail it, and virtually anybody can do that. A complication has been retirement accounts because many people qualify to give donations from their IRAs. And that is important because that's a very nice donation. But if you just send it from Rotary, the donation has to come from your financial manager. If you just send that to Rotary, it sometimes gets a little confused. So I developed a method and a position and the forms, and I've actually given those to people to help them make the donation so that is successfully donated, successfully deducted from their income tax, and also gets credited to the right people. Next slide, please. A little discussion here. Like I said, we hear a lot, every Rotarian every year versus 100% foundation giving. We decided to do the 100% foundation giving, and every Rotarian every year is identical financial goals, $100 on the average and $25 for each member. But the every Rotarian every year is all to the annual fund, whereas the 100% giving allows you to give to Polio Plus and other funds. And this was just wonderful because after we started this effort, our district came out with a very large effort to make Polio Plus donations and had lots of matching. It was something like a 7-to-1 match. And so that worked out great because a lot of people gave to Polio Plus as a part of that, and it counted for this 100% foundation giving. So very synergistic. Next slide. There are a couple of glitches. When you make a donation, boy, if you don't get the club and district info right, that's it. You have to go chase that down. Sandra and Dinesh showed the club recognition summary, and it's very good for certain things, but when you want to find out who donated what when, you don't have that information at the club level. However, Bill Ferguson, who is our district foundation manager, has that info, and I want to personally thank Bill for helping me out with sending me, and he's sending me spreadsheets, but I'm a data nerd. But this has allowed me to more carefully track who's given what when. We've also had a couple of donations lost, and we've been able to find them, but that's how this is. Next slide. Well, actually, that's the last one, I think. That's it. So, okay, thank you very much. And back over to, let's see, who's getting this now? Al is getting this now for another introduction.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. I'd like to thank our speakers, Sandra, Dineth, and Vince. Great information. Thankfully, you don't have to be a nerd to understand and implement what has been talked about today by our speakers. So right now, we're at the question and answer section of our night, and Stephen Beer is moderating the Q&A segment. So please put your questions in the question and answer box. And we have some people behind the scenes feeding questions to Stephen. And Stephen, if you'd like to kick us off with a few questions.
Okay, we have some questions already. Sandra, our giving in our club is flat, and that's what the data shows. What do we do about that information?
A good question. If your giving is flat, you need to look at your participation. If the participation is low, then you're going to focus on engagement and education. Let your members know what happens with the funds that they donate. If your giving is flat, but you have high participation, then you're going to invite smaller increases in giving. Maybe someone can't get from $500 to $1,000 for a Paul Harris Fellow, but maybe they can give $100 in the year. So it depends on what your data tells you. If your participation is low, you're going to need to educate and engage your club. And if your participation is high but dollars are flat, then invite those second and third small gifts, increasing value.
Thank you, Sandra. Donette, how has the club culture changed giving? How has the club culture around giving changed since the launch of your program?
Well, members see it as a deal. It's like getting an investment. If you want to get a PHF and you put $500 down and you get 500 points. We do that for new members, not for seasoned members. So for someone just joining the club, that's a great incentive to get $500 donated on your behalf. And so that has created a culture of persons wanting to become Paul Harris Fellows. And many of our new members actually become Paul Harris Fellows in their first year. And so it fosters that spirit of giving and piling the PHFs up, and not necessarily for the recognition, because many of them do not attend the event, they give for the cause. And I think it's a culture that we end up making our targets every year almost effortlessly.
Okay, thank you, Doneth. Sandra, can you please remind us of the 3 reports that you were talking about?
Sure. It was the fundraising analysis report, which is the one with the graph. And then the banner report, which gives the dashboard of giving and participation by your members. And the last one was the contribution report that we look at for gratitude, for thanking our members for their donations.
Thank you. Vince, some clubs collect extra dues and contribute these funds to the Rotary Foundation. Are you considering doing this at your club?
So just personally, I would rather not. These are donations. Let's have people give them as donations. That's not to say we might not do that in the future, but let's have a spirit of giving here rather than one of paying dues. But there's nothing the matter with that if that's what your club feels like. This is my personal opinion, so I'm kind of shying away from that right now.
Okay. And also, Vince, can you share the email that you sent out to your club members?
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
Okay. We'll work that out at the end of the.
Okay, yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. And Sandra, and maybe Al might have to help with this. Do we have any promise clubs in Zone 33 or Zone 34?
We do not have any promise clubs in either zone. We have one club in Zone 34 that is making an attempt to do that, but they're not quite there yet.
Maybe you can explain the Promise Club
Sure.
for everybody.
Sure. This is a club where everyone in the club has made a bequest to the Rotary Foundation upon their passing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doneth, are there any pitfalls you have encountered when executing your campaign, and how did you deal with them?
One of the challenge sometimes is to follow up and collect the funds. So let's say a pledge is made and there's a deadline to pay those funds, making sure that persons honor their commitment. But usually because we have an event coming up, a foundation gala, something that celebrates the Rotarian, they tend to make their contributions by a certain date so that they can be recognized. But you have to follow up to make sure you collect those funds. Because in that conversation, you're just getting a pledge. And once you do the paperwork for the points, then they have to pay and you have to chase those funds. Another challenge, and not necessarily a pitfall, is to get through all your members. I can see that being a challenge for larger clubs, but you could share your list among your board members and have each person calling on a certain number so that it is less work.
Okay. And Don F., I have another question for you. If you make a gift to the Foundation for Polio Plus, does this still count for a Paul Harris Fellow?
No,
Or
not in our club, no.
not in your club, but it,
And I don't think in our district. You have to donate specifically to the Rotary Foundation.
well, it would be a
Can
gift
I
to the
jump
foundation.
in?
Sure,
Can I
Sandra.
jump in? I'm going to be a nerd about this now. Maybe I should put my nerd glasses back on. So when you're giving to the Rotary Foundation, you can get a Paul Harris Fellow for any of the gifts with the exception of the endowment. So Polio Plus, to any grant, to the annual fund, any of those gifts can qualify for the points that create the Paul Harris Fellow. It's just the endowment that doesn't.
Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood
All
the
right.
question. Because we have a
That's
separate Paul Harris, a Polio Plus society here in the Bahamas.
Yes,
Okay,
and many clubs actually, if they are doing the top it up type of campaign, want to do that to bolster their annual fund giving. So they may not provide the matching points for any of the other gifts.
That's correct.
okay, here's a question for the group. It's a good question. How do you best deal with Rotarians' private foundations competing with the annual fund?
Stephen, I wonder if they're talking about the club foundations as opposed
I
to the
would
Rotary Foundation of
I
Rotary
was thinking the
International.
same. I was thinking the same thing, and that
Yeah.
the answer would apply either way.
Well, I think the club foundations, most of the time, those club foundations are there to do the giving for the club, the charitable giving. And so they will support the club's projects. And they would also support the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International. So if the club needs to make a donation to a grant, for example, or something like that, that would come from that club foundation. So I don't see them as two separate competing things.
Right. Okay. Can you please explain the difference between annual fund and annual fund share? Sandra.
The annual fund and the annual fund share are the same thing. That is the
Okay.
fund that we donate to. It's a general fund that is invested for 3 years, and then the income comes back to the district in part and to the World Fund in the other part. And that becomes our district designated funds that we use to support district grants and global grants.
Okay. And I have a question. It's more of a comment. I wish the CRS report would not stop at $9,000. So when somebody reaches over 9,000 giving, and they're Paul Harris plus 9, they're a major donor. So they.
Yes, I'm going to put my nerd glasses on because there's another report for that. There is a major donor report, and there's also a contribution detail report that you can run that will show you those larger giving members.
Okay. And we're being asked of you, Sandra, to please provide instructions on how to generate the club analysis report.
The fundraising analysis report.
I think so, yes.
Sure, you would go into your Rotary account on rotary.org, and under your club, and you're going to see a spot for running membership and foundation reports. Under the foundation reports for the club, there's going to be a list of reports. There's a drop-down box, there's a list of reports. You would select the fundraising analysis report. And then it's going to prompt you to select the year, and it will generate that report automatically.
And you can even get it in a spreadsheet if you want.
Oh, if you want, if you're a data nerd, Vince. Yeah.
Okay, and Don F., here's a question for you. Where did your club get its points? So how does a club get points?
Oh, so over the years, you contribute a certain amount of funds, and some of these funds would have been from fundraising or from the dues that members, the contributions they make every year. And so those accumulate into points. Now, you can track your points by going to the Rotary Foundation, and you'll see those points there. You can also donate those points to giving Paul Harris Awards to community humanitarians, persons who are active in the community. You can also give to members as gifts for their contribution to the club. And those points are equated to dollars. Now, if you're trying to raise funds, another pitfall, just to go back there, you don't want to use all your points just to gift them out to your members. So you want to make sure that those who can afford to pay can pay the full amount, because ultimately you're trying to raise funds to meet your target for that particular year. But every club accumulate points when they give to the foundation.
Okay, thank you. And Sandra, can you advise us if there is a prohibition for clubs mandating through dues contributions to the Rotary Foundations, or do we require people to give to the foundation?
We do not require people to give to the foundation in order to be a Rotarian. Many clubs will add it's not a part of the dues, but at the same time they send the dues, they will add an optional donation to the Rotary Foundation. A member can choose to donate and can choose not to. So it should be optional.
Right. Okay. And here's another one. Doesn't Rotary International prohibit clubs from mandating contributions to the foundation through dues? And you answered that. So I don't see any other questions. Are we straight on the points explanation? I think that was hard to understand.
Oh. So when you go to the Rotary.org and you look at the foundation reports, you'll see points being accumulated there. And these are points that each club accumulate from the donations that they make to the foundation.
So if a club makes a donation to the annual fund or polio, the club receives the points. Do you use the points from your members? Do you ask members if they can, like a member who's given a lot over the years, do you ask if he can or she can donate their points to distribute in the incentive program?
The members accumulate their own points as well. So the members can donate their own points, but the club also has points that are accumulated from fundraising, funds that are given above and beyond what members contribute.
Okay, thank you. I don't
Stephen,
think we have any. Go ahead.
I saw a question out there as to who can access the reports, and the club president and the club foundation chair can both access the foundation reports. And of course, also your district leaders can do that as well.
Right. Thank
But
you.
just a point on that is there are additional reports available from the district, and you might want to talk to your district foundation chair about some of those reports, and that's useful information also.
I'm gonna put my nerd glasses on again, Vince. There's three reports that are easy to use that will really do most of the work. And then there are a lot of additional reports that can be accessed on the Rotary website and that your district leaders have access to. So if you're looking for information, you don't find it easily, go access it. Go find those data nerds. Call Vince. He's a data nerd.
No, but seriously, there are some reports that have been very helpful that I couldn't access myself, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done with the questions and answers, and it's my pleasure to turn the program over to previous Rotary International President Stephanie Urchik.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. What a great topic for tonight's Foundation Matters. You know, our speakers tonight have done a wonderful job talking about what reports are available and how to use them. Let me just underscore why reports matter. You know, you may recall that we have this tremendous action plan, and the very first priority talks about increasing our impact. Well, that's due to the fact that we have to measure what we do. So reports, in a sense, are a measurement tool, but beyond that, they're important for strengthening and building relationships. Nothing happens without strong relationships. You know, I just finished reading a book, and I apologize, I can't remember the author, but the title of the book, How to Get People to Do Stuff. You know, it's about increasing our influence and motivation for people. So if you're interested, I mean, I saw a lot of questions in the chat and and elsewhere about people who say, I don't know how to get people off a dead center. You know, I don't know how to get people in our club to donate to the foundation. You may want to look at that. How to Get People to Do Stuff. A great book. I want to spend just a minute, because we just have a few minutes left, talking about how not to use reports. You know, one of the things that was evidenced this evening, when we saw the examples, you'll notice that the names of Rotarians were not there. And when we talk about approaching foundation giving in our clubs, remember that these conversations or these activities have to be private, not public. It's the same thing that happens in a work situation. You know, if somebody does something wrong, you don't chastise them in front of other employees. You call them to the side. You praise in public, but criticize in private. And so Jeanette mentioned it earlier. It's about a phone call. It's about, you know, a private conversation so that, you know, you're talking one-on-one with people. This reminds me of an educational program that I became aware of several years ago, where, and I think it's primarily in the state of California right now, where a district doesn't believe in tests and grading, and so there's no stress for students. They believe in repeats and redos. So if a student has some work and turns it in and it's not right, instead of getting a D or an F, the student's given the material back and given a chance to redo, and he's shown what he or she's shown what is missing or what needs to be done better. So ultimately, what that means is everybody can get to that A status if the grade were important. So without the stress of tests, without the stress of those kinds of report cards, children tend to learn better. Children tend to be motivated to work harder. I think that's a really sound strategy that we can actually use when we think about our club Rotarians and Rotarians in our districts, about how we approach them and how we address them and how we talk with them about investing in our Rotary Foundation. You know that the Rotary Foundation trustees meet 4 times a year by code. So we meet twice in person, once in April and once in October. And then we meet once attached to important events, and that would be at convention and also at the International Assembly. And when we meet at other times, it's generally by Zoom. But during those meetings, we see a lot of reports, and those reports help drive us to our decisions that are based around fund development, around stewardship and around the appropriations of the grant funding. So reports matter. They lead us to impact. And I'm certainly grateful to be able to have had an opportunity to share this important webinar with you tonight. Thanks again for asking me. Back to Al.
Thank you, Stephanie. And once again, I want to thank all of our speakers tonight, Sandra, Daneth, Vince, and Stephanie, for giving us some practical steps to turn information from the Rotary Foundation reports into actionable club strategies for the second half of this Rotary year and beyond. Please mark your calendar to join us for our next Foundation Matters webinar on March 19th at 6 p.m. Next month, we will be exploring using artificial intelligence, AI, to do good in the world. Once again, thank you for spending the evening with us. We'll share tonight's recording of the webinar as soon as it's available. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you for everything you do to support the Rotary Foundation and for continuing to do good in the world. We look forward to seeing you at next month's Foundation Matters webinar. Have a nice evening.